Hi, it's Dr. Fox, and let's talk about that emotional battery level. All of us have a battery of differing degrees. We have social batteries, we have emotional batteries, we have psychological batteries, stress batteries. That's a good analogy for looking into how much energy and effort we have to put into a particular resource. So here we're going to talk about emotional batteries, and we can talk about social batteries, stuff like that. Leave a comment if you'd like me to do other battery like videos. But let's talk about the emotional battery. Your emotional battery is how much energy you have to manage your emotions or manage the emotions of others. So your emotional battery, even though it's inside yourself, you only have so much. And if you're constantly giving out that energy, you're constantly putting it out, whether it's listening to people or helping people get from point A to point B, or doing this for someone and doing that for someone, and you're trying to manage this, and you're trying to manage that, and you're doing this at work, and you're doing that. It eats up that energy. And when our energy level gets low, what happens is a lot of our maladaptive beliefs, behaviors, and patterns come into play. And they become really problematic because we typically default to those quick beliefs, behaviors, and patterns in order to resolve the situation. What's interesting about low emotional battery levels is that when we engage in those maladaptive behaviors and beliefs and patterns, that we end up expending more energy because of the consequence of the impulsive or immediate act and behavior that we engage in. So it's interesting. So you're really stressed out, you're really tired, something happens, your emotional battery is low, and you're just like, oh man, okay, here's another thing. And maybe you fly off the handle. So you say something you wish you didn't say, or you do something you wish you didn't do and or have done, and then you have to make reparations for it or you apologize for it. But how you do that, you need more emotional battery in order to do that. Whereas if you would have stopped in that situation as best you can, taken a deep breath, taken a moment to consider the situation you're in, how best to manage it. And you got to turn down that volume, that family in the head, and all of those things. It's in your head that's telling you this is terrible. This is going to be this is going to be it. This is going to be the what if stuff or the fortune telling that a lot of folks engage in. And that amps you up, but it further drains your battery. So let's talk about specific battery drainers. So energy drainers, battery energy drainers. This can be people pleasing. Absolutely. So you go out of your way to make sure everybody else is okay. You don't really think much about yourself or your own needs or expectations and things about self-care that you need to do. So you're pleasing everybody. That eats away your energy level over time. You spend too much time on the phone, you know, all of that scrolling and reading and seeing what other people are doing and all of that. That takes energy in order to do that. And you're getting so many dopamine hits that, then this is true for so many of us all over the world. We spend so much time on that phone looking at these different things, and we like the little dopamine hits that we get. Dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit. And in doing that, after a while, our brain gets sort of saturated with it. Not that saturated, we're like, yeah, that's great. It gets depleted and worn out so that we don't have as that dopamine. We need more dopamine in order to reach that same level. Our bodies and brains are designed to adjust and adapt, which causes habituation at a particular level. As we're constantly tired, we have higher requirements in order to reach that same level of satisfaction. Let's use alcohol, for example, right? We're drinking and you get a nice little buzz after one or two beers. And then if you drink every day or you drink multiple times throughout the day, then you need more to get that same effect. Dopamine is the same way. That energy level is the same way, is that we have to conserve our energy. So another one is fear, doubt, and stress. That can eat up our energy. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of wonderment about, well, how's it all going to work out? What ifs? If you're a person who says what ifs to yourself or to others, and you apply it to a lot of different situations, it's eating up your energy. It's draining your energy. So you have to do things to put it back. We're going to talk about energy givers and builders in just a moment. And then overthinking, same with stress, right? We're using all this energy to try to figure out all these various scenarios. And you know what I found in being a psychologist for, 20 plus years and being a human being for 53 years, that, as many times as I try to predict the different situations and I spend so much time like, oh, well, maybe it'll be this and it could be this. It's always the one that I didn't think of. You know what I mean? So what I try to do is that I try to engage in behaviors that increase the probability of positive outcome. That helps with my energy balance, is that I try to say, okay, you know what? If I do this, likelihood it'll increase the probability of positive outcome. So if I get up and exercise every day, it increases the probability that I won't get sick, that I'll have more energy throughout the day, that it'll also help me with my own psychology and ability to focus. And I believe that it does that, and it increases the probability of that. But that overthinking, it just eats it up. It eats it up. Also, the food that we eat, if you eat a lot of junk, look, I love donuts. I love M&Ms. I love sugar. I know I do, so I have to use it sparingly. I have to be careful about, how much I intake. And I have a sweet every day. And I love Ben & Jerry's New York Super Fudge Chunk. I don't know if you ever had it. If you haven't, I highly encourage it. It is wonderful, but you have to have it sparingly. You can't plow through that whole pint because I know I'm going to pay for that the next day. And if I keep doing it, it's going to cause me a lot of problems down the road. I'm going to be with clients. I'm going to just have that sugar high. I'm going to get too tired. And then, it's one of those things, you're really intently listening to someone in session and someone's telling you about all their important, emotional concerns and emotional issues. And then you start with one of these, and if I'm fighting my fatigue, my sugar crash, while I'm also trying to listen, process, and understand what my client is going through, I'm not really useful as a psychologist, as a mental health provider. So we got to be careful about the food that we eat, the junk that we take in. Healthier food increases the probability of more energy output. Absolutely. If we sit too long, we are a sitting society all around the world. We got to get up. We got to get moving. Again, it goes back to that exercising. Let me just talk about a few more. Spending time living in the past. Always thinking about your history. Always trying to process or blame yourself for your history and the things that you've done. And if you do that, you got to go back to that history in your mind. And if you feel like you need to make reparations, what do you need to do to feel okay with it? It's not always about what you can do for someone else. It's about coming to terms with yourself. Mental health provider can absolutely help that. And that can help raise that energy level because you're burning off, right? You're lowering your emotional battery because you're spending so much time on regret, shame, guilt, doubt, all of those things that eat your battery up. So you're constantly fatigued. You're constantly tired. And it is so low. And then the last one I want to talk about is setting unrealistic goals for yourself. These unrealistic goals, a lot of times what they usually are is long-term goals with short terms or timeline expectations. Big goals require a big timeline in most cases. So, I play guitar and I took 20 years off to get a degree, have a family, all this stuff. Just stuff kept getting in the way. I kept putting it off. So then, right, I picked it back up recently. In picking it back up, my expectation was that I would go quickly back to where I was 20 years ago. Well, I didn't. I had to go all the way back to the beginning. I had to retrain myself. But, we all have a family in the head. We all have a chorus. And it was that little chorus that said, wow, you really are going back to the beginning. And what I would tell myself is, but you know what? Going back to the basics is what helps us build that structure, that foundation to get to where we want to go. But it takes time. And it looks like, especially on like social media and stuff like that, like you see these people playing these songs and doing this, this, that, on the guitar, just as an example. And we always think, at least I do, think, wow, that person's like, oh, I'm going to do this today. And they just pick it up and they're just like, I bet they're not. If they're like myself or other people who I know who have YouTube channels or Instagram channels and things like that, it takes time. It takes preparation. And it's the same thing. We have to set realistic goals. Where do you want to be 5 years, 10 years. Okay, then how do we get there? And set metrics. And as a mental health provider, I do this with my clients all the time with their psychological goals. How do we get there? How can we help you get there? And we set those metrics so you know that you're on your way, so that you know that you're reaping a reward for all your time and effort into this particular endeavor. So those are all the things that kind of eat up our battery. Okay. So, and I also threw in some things that can kind of help balance it, but let's talk about what are energy givers? What are energy increasers? How do we increase the amount that we have in our emotional battery? First of all, got to get outside. We got to get outside and move around. We got to get some sunlight. And I've done videos on this before about sadness and depression and things like that, about wintertime. People do start to get a little down. I have a video on seasonal affective disorder. I'll put the link right here. You might be interested in that and kind of break that down. So getting some sunlight, getting out, other things is exercise, which I mentioned, eating well, which I mentioned. Also, what kind of music do you like? Listening to music, taking time out to just listen to music. Don't listen to music and scroll on your phone, right? Which is a nice habit, see? But it's scrolling through but that's using a lot of resources. That's going to kind of eat it away. Just listening to music, maybe going for a walk and listening to music. Like my dog, I'll walk my dog and I'll just listen to music, and I don't take my phone out. I'm not looking through my phone or anything like that. I'm just walking the dog and we're just kind of chilling, me and the dog. It's kind of nice. That's an energy giver. That increases my energy level. Also, really connecting to someone else, and not necessarily on the phone, but in person. Like I try to go to lunch with folks. I try to have breakfast with folks and, spend time with friends, family, loved ones, things like that. People that I know care about me, want me to grow and develop, and people that will also challenge me to grow and develop in an appropriate way. It's okay to challenge people and encourage them to grow and develop, but they have to do it in a caring way, not so that you feel bad, like a more of a narcissistic way, which is that they make you feel bad so they feel better and smarter. Genuine friends encourage you, and these are folks who help raise your battery and your energy because they encourage you to grow and develop, but they do it in a way that is aligned with you. Oh, it's about doing this or utilizing this or trying this. And they give you suggestions and give you ideas, but they're for you to develop, not for them to feel as though they got one up on you by telling you what you're doing wrong. Very different, very different. This one's a tricky one. Sleep. We are a sleep-deprived planet. It's not just in the United States, not just in the UK. It is all over the world. We are a sleep-deprived planet. We got to get good sleep. And you probably don't even want to hear this. You're probably like, what? Skip. Don't skip it, because we have to have enough sleep. And I think that little naps are okay. The secret to naps are, I like to stay under 20 minutes. Once we're typically over 20 minutes, REM sleep kicks in. When REM sleep kicks in, we wake up, we're super groggy, maybe we're moody, but under 20 minutes, REM doesn't have time to kick in. So we wake up a little more refreshed, a little more energized, and that can raise your energy level. I put a little timer on my phone, if I know I'm just kind of going to chill for a minute and just take a little nap. Sometimes it's between clients, which is really good because then I'm really back at it and I'm paying attention. That's what I want to do. I was paying attention to everybody before, but then I raised my battery level, so I'm back in it. And then lastly, about having a creative outlet. Like for me, it's guitar. It's doing that. Like I really enjoy doing that. I enjoy the challenge of it. I enjoy understanding a lot of the principles involved, and I forgot how much I got out of it 20 years ago. And I really wish that I didn't put it by the wayside, but regret gets us nowhere. So what is your art or creative outlet? Could be painting, could be drawing, could be, doing stuff online, things like that. But have that art, that outlet, that creativity outlet. It's really, really important. It doesn't have to take up a bunch of your time. Like a lot of times I'm practicing my scales and stuff as I'm watching TV. Right now on Netflix, I'm watching the show Botched. I find it very fascinating from a psychological perspective. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's very fascinating. And I'm just practicing my scales as I watch it. I like to call it brain candy, stuff like that. So doing those kind of things, those are energy givers. Those are energy lifters, and it fills up my emotional energy. And it really helps to keep a balance, because when we've balanced our emotional energy level, we're better controlled. We have less outbursts or issues where our maladaptive beliefs, behaviors, and patterns has adversely impact how we're functioning, how we're connecting to others, and how we're doing our job. So I encourage you, pay attention to those energy drainers and depleters, and have more energy encouragers, lifters, givers in your life. And if you have some energy depleters and energy givers that I didn't mention, leave them in the comments. People read these comments. And I think that, this channel has been so great for so many people who have really been so, caring about others and putting great information out there. So please, if you have your own, list them, leave them out there. That would be terrific. So thank you very much. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.